So, just like our subscriber count, the Pakistan team's success and form has been derailed as expected after a bit of a surge over the last month or so, beating England, beating Australia in the ODI series. Of course, losing 3-0 to Pakistan, to Australia's D team, E team, F team, whatever you want to call it. A fantastic performance by Pakistan as always. But I think it all comes down to how awful Pakistan is in the T20 format. Coinciding with the fact that India, on the other hand, was destroying South Africa, scoring 280 and whatever
I mean, it was
200.
absurd.
Absurd scores. And also, there's a small matter of the Border Gavaskar Trophy coming up in the next few days. So we'll preview that as well. So lots of Australian-related cricket. But there's only one place to start. Pakistan cricket, T20 or T7, whatever format it is, pretty horrible performance, mainly with the bat, but also with the ball in certain patches.
And just to put, I mean, just to rub salt to the wounds, you won two out of the three tosses, right?
Yeah.
So you can't say that, oh, we lost the toss and it was a rain curtail game where the toss was. No, you bowl first, which is the best thing you want in a 5 over, 7 over game. Look, ultimately, it's a. I'm finding it quite difficult to come up with new content because I've come to the point where this has repeated itself again and again. We take two steps forward and then 20 steps back, right? And I just don't even know what their plan was heading into the T20 series. What I personally think this. I think they didn't really care about the T20 series. I thought it was predominantly the ODIs that they were focused on in the lead up to the Champions Trophy. I felt like they had gone there with a bit of a plan. They had certain strategy in mind, and the T20s they were a bit like, all right, let's just test our bench strength. Like, I mean, what was there? Was it the second game where they opened with Babar and Rizwan, and then you have a number 3, 4, 5, 6 who collectively have played less than 100 games, and in fact, way less. In fact, less than 60 games
Not
even.
even like 50 games, I think.
No, there's 3, 4, 5, yeah, less than 50 games, right? And that is bizarre. Surely someone would have been like, okay, is it should we split up Babar and Rizwan if nothing else is just to balance it out because otherwise there's nothing we can do, right? If they both get out, I mean, look at how lopsided our team is. And then going in with five bowlers when your batting has been your biggest weakness, it's just mind boggling. And then you not drop, you rest your captain and then promote your vice captain to be captain, who, by the way, was making his debut as a vice captain. Would you believe Salman Aga played his first T20 game as a vice captain, no less, and then became captain 2 games later? I mean, and then if someone told you this, you'd be like, wow, this guy must have shot to superstardom in the format. And you're like, well, not really. And then you're like, oh, well, he must have done really well going from, in his first 2 games that they promoted him to captain in like his third game. And you're like, yeah, well, not quite. It was probably a really disappointing debut series for him. His first 2 games, he was appalling, and then he saved his best worst for last. He was terrible. And then I thought, why rest your captain when your vice captain has only played 2 T20 games? It is, I don't know why he's your T20 vice captain, anyways, but it's just, these are elementary mistakes. These are mistakes you expect your high school team to make. A non-serious like inter-school tournament or something like that. I mean, this is international cricket. You've paid so much money to go to Australia. You've got a crowd full of Pakistani supporters, and I felt really bad today. I mean, there are quite a few Pak supporters at Hobart, and you feel this 11 where like and then you bat first, and then you just capitulate, and then the game is over. Like I mean that, and then I don't know whether you heard the post match conference. Somehow I was like, yeah, but there are lots of positives to take from here, so we're happy. No, wait, what? Like what positives? It just points at the same thing, which is they didn't really give a toss about this series. They just cared about the ODI series. They came here what they wanted to achieve. We'll come on to talk about Gillespie. Maybe he's checked out. I don't know. I don't know. But I cannot believe that intellectually, capable people who are experienced in cricket would think that these 11s that we fielded are match winning teams, even against an Australia team.
Yeah, I mean, on the face of it, yes, it does look like a bit of lack of seriousness. But to be honest with you, like this is probably the 11 if you were playing the T20 World Cup tomorrow. Not the last ODI T20. And maybe not in the first because there was 7 overs, so you could afford to have one less bowler. But the second T20 team is pretty much the team that you would probably play with now. Maybe you'd have Saima Ayub for Farhan, but that's really it if you were playing a World Cup tomorrow, right?
Well, yeah, but there's Fakir Zaman, right? I mean, look, we can talk about Fakir
No,
Zaman,
that's a different, yeah, yeah.
that's
That's a
different,
different, that's a
but
different
that's a
debate. I mean, yeah,
big miss in
I
this.
mean, the point is, yeah, yeah. I mean, the point is like the other options you had were, I don't know, Iftikhar and Shadab, and they've failed. So you're back to these guys as well, right? So I think that's about Azam Khan or whatever, right? So I think there is a big gap in skill. I think you mentioned, yes, lack of seriousness or intent or whatever, but it does also just come down to pure skill. I mean, Australia were also playing a very weak team, but somebody at some point or the other, showed up. Yeah, they had a very, um, they kind of had, one template, go hard in the beginning, lose wickets later on, doesn't matter. But Razor McGurk and Short always gave them good starts, and that kind of won it for the Maxwell in that 7 over game. And it does come down to skill of the skill of the batters because Australia have that intent. Every batter can come in and hit sixes from ball one. I mean, Pakistan just don't have that, right? I know Usman Khan got a 50 in the second T20, but it was probably the ugliest
With
50
the
I've seen in
worst
my life.
T20 I've seen, and then for Salman Aga to mention it in the third match, today's match, the post match ceremony, he said, "Oh, one of the brightest parts was Usman Khan's 50." And you're like, "What? What on earth? I mean, what is this like? What is this lobbyism for Usman Khan that has started? I mean, it's absurd." I
The only
thought
positive, yeah, in that match was probably
Irfan Khan.
Irfan. Yeah, Irfan Niazi. Yeah, his batting was still, he showed some
And he's an
T20.
all rounder, isn't he?
Yeah, apparently he is, but he's not bowled a single ball, so I don't know.
I don't know.
Um,
Classic.
I mean, even
Classic.
Jandad Khan is meant to be an all rounder, but then he was coming in at like below Shaheen Afridi, and I mean,
Sure. Trying to feed these an all rounder, Zayed. Come on. Come on. He will get angry
uh,
at you for saying that. No, look, ultimately, look.
yeah,
I I agree. I thought Irfan Khan Niazi is also a very good fielder. So he was the only bright spot. I don't know why they didn't play Sam Ayub in the T20s. I don't think he's played so much cricket and he's so established that he can be rested. I think he's still proving himself out. If he's got his eye in with a couple of good knocks, let him have a couple more, especially against an Australia D or whatever. Let him. It's good match experience. He's not like a 200 match veteran. They'd be like, you know what? I'm just going to sit this one out if I may. Like, no. Like, he should have played every single game here. And
I know that,
obviously,
yeah, they wanted to try Farhan, but I mean, he was pretty awful. He got out playing the same shot in all 3 games. I mean, typical domestic Pakistan bully short ball gets found
praise the
out straight
man
away.
every time, half hearted. Should I put it down? Should I play it in the air? Should I play it down? Should I check it? Should I just go all after? And then it ends up being a half hearted shot. I mean, I've seen this template play out so many times. So with Pakistan, I think we have to face it. We have no bench strength. We've been saying this for a while, even back during our T20 heydays, where we reached the semi-final of a tournament we probably should have won, and a final of a tournament that we got lucky of even making it to the semis and the final. We thought that the signs were there that we were so short on bench strength outside of the bowling department, and even in the bowling department only on Australian bouncy tracks. Other than that, we had very little bench strength, and I think now it's coming to the fore, right? Because really, if the card isn't going to play anymore, right? So the question is, do you bring back your Shan Masood, which I don't think you do in T20s? He's 34 years old. You have to move past that. And he's not even the most flamboyant hitter. The only question is Mohammad Haris. But Mohammad Haris also has disappointed, right? I mean, everyone talks about it, and I think you made this point. The most loved cricketers in Pakistan are those who aren't playing. If you actually open up the stat book and look at what Mohammad Haris has done in the A team, it's been not that great, right? He's captained the A
Exactly.
team, and he's forget captaining. I mean, his batting has been not quite poor, right? He gives his wicket away. People say it's because he's been given the captaincy. I don't buy it. Whatever it is, he hasn't merited a place in the team. So then people have said Asif Ali, and you're like, like how many times will you go full circle before you realize that that's not the answer? You did it with Imad Wasim, and he lost you the India game. I don't care what anyone tells me. He lost you the India game. Okay, that literally those 5 dots of Aksar Patel of exactly the same delivery. It's like you're watching a replay. I fathom. So I'm just saying, like, there is a shelf life to these players, and maybe Asif maybe still has a last hurrah left in him. I don't know, but it's very, very, very upsetting that we just in since Shahid Afridi's retirement, we haven't been able to get a proper finisher and power hitter. And that's just the real, and to the extent that we had to start calling Mohammad Hafiz a power hitter. You know what I mean? That's how
Yeah.
desperate it became.
Hafiz
Sorry.
2.0.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you're calling Afridi a finisher is a big compliment for him in any case. But
Exactly. But I think compared to this current Pakistani crop,
yeah,
I think Shahid Afridi is literally finisher times 100. Like, unfortunately, that's where we're at. I think you're right. I think if you really want to call a proper finisher, it's Razak. I think was the last one, but
probably better. Yeah, yeah, or at least someone who can start hitting from ball one, or someone who can hit 20 runs of 6 balls, something like that. You just don't have that anymore. Even the ones that are doing something it's very unconvincing. So yeah, I think it's disappointing. And I mean, the other point is, it's the same issues, right? It's the short ball, it's leg spin. I mean, Zampa again, even Babar was struggling against him. Salman Agha, supposed to be a good player of spin. It was clueless against Zampa, and he scored like 1 of 10 balls or something.
9, yeah.
I mean, yeah, so it's ridiculous. I mean, how can you at this level? Yes, Zampa is a decent bowler, but he's not. Yeah, I don't know. World class is an overused term, but he's not world class.
He's not.
He's not
Well,
Rashid
yes,
Khan, right?
he is.
He's not
He
Rashid
is
Khan.
world class. He's not the best in the world. Yes.
Yeah, but I think he's got a phenomenal record against Pakistan, and we just make him look so good every time. And it's shocking. I mean, there's been no improvements, and this and the I guess the worrying thing is also again with the batting is the number of wickets Pakistan lost. And so many times you had wickets, losing wickets in a cluster, 2 wickets in an over. It happened twice or 3 times in the second
Yeah.
T20. I mean, the 7 over match, fine, whatever, 7 overs, you're just hitting out. But even in the last match, obviously, you're 60 for one in 6 overs or 6.2 overs, and then you collapse to 116, 117 all out.
I mean, look,
It's
for me, the most
it's just
disappointing
no
thing,
no sense.
the most disappointing thing from my perspective was the second T20 when you've restricted the team to 147 Australia, and that power play. Why did you lose that game? Because you didn't capitalize on that power play. How many times do we say this again and again? That wins and loses you games, right? You had left far too much for Irfan Khan Niazi and all to do. And to be fair, he brought you very close. So just imagine, had Rizwan or Babar scored a few quicker runs or a few more runs, even if it's just singles or doubles or whatever, because in Australia there are lots of twos and threes out there because of big grounds.
I mean, no
He was
boundaries in 9 overs or whatever it was, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly. And you know what? Okay, if you said, okay, I have no, okay, no boundaries and I know this is terrible, terrible. But if you said, you know what, I didn't, but I got lots and lots of threes or whatever. No, the dot ball percentage was atrocious in the first 9, 10 overs. That's the problem. You would have won the game had that percentage been lower. And you know what? I'm tired of Mohammad Rizwan looking very good in one game and looking god awful for the next 4 or 5. It's just not good enough. Either he's a big hitter like a Maxwell who can win you the game single-handedly when he comes off. When he's not that. When he comes off, he'll give you a slightly better than a runner ball 40, right? Which does not
yeah,
win you matches in T20 cricket. So then where's the trade-off? Why are you going again and again and seeing this guy who when he's not looking great, he looks terrible, he looks so out of sorts, he looks as if he can't time the ball, everything's going all wrong, he looks too bottom hand heavy. For what? For the one odd occasion that he'll score you a run a ball 40, the trade-off doesn't work for me in T20 cricket, and that's a bit of a shame because I remember a time when he was the best T20 batter in the world. And that's when I think that some of those stats were a bit exaggerated because of the quality of opposition. And in fairness to him, he did have a purple patch. But a part of me feels that bowlers have found him out a bit. Now they know when he's early in his innings, when he's new to the crease, he will always look for that release shot down the leg side. If you don't give him that, make him play on the offside in his first few deliveries, he gets a bit cagey and he gets a bit
yeah.
jittery and yeah. So I look, I don't think this trade-off is working anymore. I mean, if he's your anchor, then he must play as an anchor and be able to just keep scoring singles and doubles and not let any dot balls occur. He doesn't let that happen. And on the
Yeah.
other hand, you have the great Babar Azam, who, for me, I think it's fair to say, if you're playing against an Australia D and you're barring today, and even today, like, you've got to go all the way. If you score 41 of 26, you have to go all the way. And
Yeah.
I know I'm being unfair on him, but if he is someone who you want to bill as one of the greatest limited overs batters Pakistan will ever produce, then he needs to start coming up with the goods. So he needs to be a lot faster in the first two T20s. And if he can't, and today when he did get his eye in and wickets falling on the other end, he should have seen us through till the end.
Yeah.
I am coming to the conclusion that they're not T20 players. But the issue
I
is you
mean,
don't have anyone else to take that
yeah.
mantle.
I mean, the thing with Babar is the same issue. And it was the same issue in the last T20, right? Where he, in the power play, when the field is up, he'll have a go to couple of overs. He'll go get
Exactly.
4 boundaries in an over. His strike rate looks good, 30 of 20. And then he'll go for a run a ball for the next 10, 11 balls.
Exactly.
And then,
Because he
and then he
can't,
gets
yeah.
out. So
Exactly.
it was the same. It was the same again, right? So it looks good, 40 of whatever, 27, 28 balls. But it's in the context of the game, if you once you've had that start, and I'm sure there must be stats somewhere, and we've been saying it, for the past year or so, where his post power play batting is really bad. And maybe he should just retire after the power play or something, or just hit out and get out on the 37th ball of the innings. But it's really awful, like how bad he gets. He just can't clear the field, or maybe it's his mindset where he's like, okay, now I've got enough for a good start. Now I need to consolidate. But it's not just a one-off. It's been happening with him for a long time. And to be honest, like Rizwan as well. I mean, rankings and stuff. Yes, he was number one batter, but that's also because of averages and quantum of runs, not strike rates. And nobody in the Pakistan team can get you a 50 in 20 or 22 balls. There's no one in that whole. Maybe Irfan Niazi if he starts, has a good day.
I thought
Babar is one on
Akeem
their
was good.
yeah, on their best day they can get what, 65 or 45 or 65 or 40, something like that. That's like the peak of their innings, right? You're like, wow, what an amazing inning. And that's the ceiling. I mean, I know they've all got hundreds in the past and stuff, on really flat pitches, but nowadays I think there's no one who can get you that, not even a 30 and 10 balls, something like that. Whereas every other team, Australia, look at everyone. Stoinis, the way he came in and whacked everything. Maxwell did in the first game, the start that short and JFM gave in the second T20. So there's always someone who does, and that's all you need in T20 cricket. You need two batters to face 20 balls and get strike it at 200.
Yeah.
and that gets you over the line. Or in India's case, strike it at 300 or whatever it is. But
But that's a very fair point around, like, Babar Azam. I just feel like he can't clear the infield. He is sorry. Well, he can. He can't clear the men in the deep. I think that's his problem. He can't hit out. He can't hit those sixes, and I think it's a mental block because I think he is trying to like change that image, but he doesn't feel he has the game, and then because of that he's not making the. What's the other thing you do? What are the other things like? If you actually look at Virat Kohli, yes, he can hit those big six. He has that gear that Babar Azam doesn't have, but he also runs wonderfully between the wickets. He has very limited dot balls. It's the same for Joe Root. You'll find that these players use those big
yeah,
fielders in the deep to their advantage. And just and when I look at old Babar Azam footage, he did have that game. He did, like, and against high quality opposition as well when he just started out. And I feel sometimes I don't call it beginner's luck, but when you're new to the international circuit and there's less expectation on you, you can be a lot more expressive. It's often players who then have to deal with the weight of expectation once that starts, that they start struggling. And I feel that's what's happening with Barber. Because he did have that. Yes, he could never hit those big sixes, but he could always find find the boundary quite easily, even outside the power play.
yeah.
And that's a bit disappointing that he just, I don't know where that game's gone.
I mean, you mentioned his running. I'm sure the Bauer fans will be quick to point out that he ran almost a four in the last T20, and he ran like a couple of threes. So well done to him for that. But yeah, I mean, the other point you make about his lack of freedom to express himself, and I guess the weight of expectations, but also it's part of it is also the quality of the bad batters around him, right? Where he just probably feels it has to be him and Rizwan all the time, and if he flops, then and I
Yeah.
mean to be fair, that's what's happened, and again where he scored 40 and the rest of them have just flopped. But also, yeah, looking at the way he got out in the first two games, like getting caught at the boundary, which probably in Pindi or some other ground would have been six, but of course in the big Australian grounds wasn't to be the case. So yeah, I don't know what the solution is. I mean, now that Rizwan is obviously your white ball captain, he kind of played that sacrificial lamb card by dropping himself and getting a Sibullah in, and I don't know, maybe he didn't want to. Maybe he wanted to prove a point that look, I'm not that selfish kind of a captain who's afraid of their place. That's why he dropped himself. But anyways, the point is that both of them will still be part of the team. So you need to find some way of making it work with them. Again, the classic splitting them up. Yeah, I mean, and then having another anchor in Salman Aliyah coming in at
I mean, for
five or
God's
six,
sake, I mean, what
it
is this
doesn't.
nonsense? Like, exactly. How many anchors do you want? Like, I mean, like,
And you can't chase 150, right? And you're meant to chase. You can't chase 150, and that's like a classic. That batting lineup is tailor made for chasing 140, 150, and you can't even do
exactly. And you
that.
can't even do that. And that's the thing. Like, how many anchors do you need to prevent, prevent a sinking ship? Like, it's not like you're the Titanic, for God's sake. Even though it certainly feels like it when when you look at Pakistan's batting. I mean, it keeps getting worse and worse. The hole keeps getting deeper and deeper. But if I just were to be positive for a second, right? Look, you have Fakhar Zaman there. Okay, he still has a few years left. I don't care what you need to do to make him come back in, but clearly you need to make him come back in. Okay, both in ODIs and in T20s. I don't care what people tell me. Fakhar Zaman is a limited overs guy who needs to be there. Like one of the only players of Pakistan that can actually start hitting sixes from ball one if he gets going. He can also look terrible, as we know, but if he gets going. And I know in one days, I think there'll be greater resistance to having him because our opening partnership finally flourished. But remember, Fakhar Zaman's best format is actually not T20, it's ODIs. Because and you can look at his stats to prove that. But if you have Babar, Rizwan, Fakhar, and Saim Ayub as your top four in whatever order you want, I think that's not bad, right? That's not bad. It's not amazing, but if these four agree amongst themselves that one of them need to come good, and yes, Sam Ayub should be given that responsibility in T20s, not in one days just yet, but in T20s. One of you needs to go on, okay? or ideally two of you, so then you can split the burden. So you can make, as you say, two quick fire 40s, whatever. But one of you, if needs to just really, make as big a score as possible and just give a bit of continuity to the team. And they just have to have that happen, right? I think there's a good mix of aggression and anchorship, maybe a bit too much anchorship, but it's the best that we have in those four. And I don't know, they say you have to develop a core, and then now everybody else after number four does a supplementary job, as is the case in T20 cricket, right? Now, I accept that those supplementary people are, I don't know who, Irfan Khan Niazi, maybe. Um, there's one space I think that is up for grabs. I think you will see, unfortunately, Shadab Khan making his way back. I thought did you notice those Australian commentators? I wonder why Shadab Khan's not playing. You're like, um, have you not been watching cricket? Or it's one of those things that's you run out of things to
Yeah.
say. It's like, oh yeah, he was a right fielder. Yeah, it was a right fielder. Yeah, mate. And you're like, well, yeah, but he was a terrible batter. He used to he was a terrible bowler for the latter part of his career. So I don't know why he's in the team, right? Just because he's just a name that doesn't make mean he needs to be there.
I
So
mean, again, it's the classic. He's on the team, so and the team's not performing, so he's
yeah,
just
where
not
is this guy? Where
a
is this
great
guy?
player.
Bulao say.
But to be fair to Sufyan Mukim, he did pretty decent. I mean, it was unfair. He was given the score that Australia were chasing the last T20, but he did a pretty decent job. And although I was still disappointed in the actual his actual bowling because he bowled too many balls on the pads. Got lucky a few times, but it just seemed to be effective. Maybe it's the pace of his the way he bowls, or obviously is that angle that he bowls with. So he did do a decent job. So yeah, I don't have any issues from that point of view.
No, no, I
But
don't.
yeah, I think they need to find a way. Whether it's again Hasibullah or get Muhammad Haris in, or somehow find a way that you can have your 5, 6. Usman Khan obviously he's got a 50, so he will be there for the next whenever Pakistan plays.
Sure.
As painful as it was to watch, but he's going to play for sure. So yeah, I don't know what the actual outcome is going to be, but yeah, it was disappointing, and obviously the bowling. Naseem Shah has been a bit disappointing. Shaheen Afridi, we've been saying it for so long. Always looking for that magic ball. Yeah, it's Haris Rauf was obviously the only positive, and Abbas Afridi to a certain extent. But overall, it was a pretty sad T20 series for Pakistan.
Very sad, and yeah, very sad. Speaking of obviously sad, I mean, there's a lot of circus-like news coming out of Pakistan about the coach. Look, just to be very clear, I was shocked when I first saw the headlines which said that he's set to be removed. Then I saw that actually, no, he's still around for the next two test series. Sorry, for the next two
Yeah,
test match series against South Africa. But PCB were very clear to only
yeah,
say for the next series. They didn't say, oh, until further notice, he's still the coach. Oh, no, he's still the coach. He just said,
yeah,
no, no, we refute what's been said. He is the coach for the next two test matches. You're like,
yeah,
well, okay, that's weird because, like, why are you giving that disclaimer for the next two test matches? So clearly, he's on the way out. And that's shocking. Here's
yeah,
someone who has shut up about his and put his ego on the side when it came to stripping him of selection powers. He wasn't that happy about it, but he accepted that perhaps this may be for the betterment of Pakistan cricket for whatever reason, and let me just go with the
yeah,
flow for a bit. Right? To his credit, he let go of his ego there. Right? Gary
yeah,
Kirsten didn't follow that approach, and maybe he did the right thing, Gary Kirsten. I don't know. But anyway, so he
yeah,
did. He focused on getting the best out of the boys, and that's what resulted in a great England series victory. Yes, you praise Akib Javed absolutely for the tactics, but the coach still needs to send 11 players out to the middle to execute on that strategy, and that's Jason Gillespie and Shan Masood. Right? They did a sterling job in ensuring that the players, it's the little things, the tactics to execute the strategy. I thought they did brilliantly. And then he coached the A team to Darwin again as a gesture of goodwill, no pay. Okay, he just did it because he knew the conditions. He thought he'd help out. He spent considerable time in Pakistan following the that domestic ODI tournament, one day tournament, and then he won you a series win in Australia. The first two test matches again, sorry, the first two one days against a strong Australian lineup, and the third, yes, a little depleted, but the manner in which you won, you thrashed them. So it's all well and good you play a depleted team, but then the expectation is rather than win, you thrash. And that's what happened. So Pakistan ticked all boxes, and you have to give credit to Jason Gillespie and Mohammad Rizwan. And after all that, you say, all right, hold on a second. You know what? I think we're going to make, can you please take on the coaching responsibilities of the limited oversight at zero or very little extra pay? Because actually we thought we had overpaid you to begin with, and we just suddenly just have a change of heart. How do you think he will respond? I mean, you're lucky he hasn't resigned and he's out of respect for Pakistan and its players who are all passionate about, and its fans who are all passionate about the game. Pakistani fans, obviously, out of respect for all these three entities, he hasn't said anything. But I'm sure
Yeah.
he is fuming. I mean, and now you're like, okay, now that you haven't accepted it, I think we're gonna take you out from all. It's like reminds me of the thing that, let's say you were at your friend's house in school, and you let's say didn't have a certain game, and only this one guy, another friend, had this game, and you invited him only because you wanted him to bring that game, and we're like, oh, but and he's like, oh, I've lost that game. And, well, I don't think you should come then. You know what I mean? I mean, what
Yeah.
backhanded nonsense and disrespect is this?
Yeah, it's a circus, as we've come to know it. I don't know. I mean, let's wait for the story to come out. I think part of it is also, I don't know, but what the other side of the story is. Maybe Gillespie didn't want to do this, hybrid model where he was, because he was only doing red ball cricket, right? And then I don't know, maybe it was they couldn't come to an agreement where he was like, okay, I'll just do it to the South Africa series. Then they've got a home series against West Indies coming up after that, which is pretty much a useless series. So maybe he was like, okay, and then don't know when Pakistan's playing Test cricket after that. So maybe he was like, okay, maybe there's no need for him. Or I think part of the reason why he only took on a test he took on a test only role was because he wanted to spend more time in Australia and didn't want to travel. So it could be part of that. Could be that he just didn't want to do didn't want to have more of it, right? So I don't know. It could also be
But
that.
then just let him stay as test coach and then make
Yeah,
Akif Javed
maybe.
your one day coach or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I
It's,
think
it's
Akif Javed has an ego as well. You see,
yeah. Maybe it's something to do with it. Yeah,
he'd
something
say
to do
that
with
if you
that.
make me coach, you make me coach of all.
Yeah, but even then, because Mohsin Naqvi's like press conference, like he was saying weird stuff that they've asked Akijau to come in temporarily, and then he's going doing other stuff with the PCB as well. It's a real hodgepodge. It was very
But
unclear.
can I ask a question? Wahab Riaz has been named as your mentor for the Champions
Yeah,
Trophy.
he's something. He's something. Yeah, yeah,
What on earth? The most average bowler Pakistan's produced. Okay, not average. He had some good moments, but for God's sake, yeah, there's one spell in a losing game that's seen him till now. I mean, this guy, I remember he was a guy who Stephen Smith showed all his wickets to, and he still got spanked for a four. I mean, and this is the guy you want to make a mentor for your team and like a champion of mental strength when he himself would go absolutely brainless and have a brain fade every time he'd be attacked. I I,
yeah.
I mean, a team. And look, yes, unfortunately, Pakistanis, our former cricketers, even the legends of legends, are not the most professionalist people. They have their vendettas, right? There's Javed Miadad, there's Safraz Nawaz. They're always fighting with each other. So I get that. There's a lot of, unfortunately, checkered histories there. But then, so that's why they're aiming to go more towards newer stars and people who understand the modern requirements of the game and know these current crop of players well, right? Because of during their own playing days. So I get the logic sometimes, but in Pakistan's case, because we don't have many clean old cricketers who don't have an agenda, but Wahab Riaz, for God's sake. I mean, where is
Again.
Yunus Khan? Okay, Yunus Khan. Where are all the others? Okay, like uh, I was about to say Misbah, but he also has an agenda. We all remember. But I think so. Where's Yunus Khan, the most integrity-driven person in Pakistan? But like like that's the
And
shame.
yeah, the thing with Wahab, yeah, Wahab is like he's been around the block. Like he's pretty much been everything, in the coaching setup. So and it's
A
not like
chief
he's been,
selector.
yeah, it's not like he's done any of it to any degree of success, right? So it's just like they're trying to find something for him to fit in rather than the other way around. And it's, yeah, it's,
And also, I think they're just fine. They're looking for someone who's willing to take it on. Right. That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
sad
And
state of
it's just
it.
sad because it does show that there is a sense of, I don't know, nepotism, or like there's some sort of
Lack
like,
of
they
job
have yeah,
security.
lack of security, or they just have like these 4 or 5 people that they want to put in everything. It's yeah, it's sad. But I guess maybe the others don't want it. The the better coaches or players with, people with more experience, they probably just don't want these roles. They don't want to deal with the PCB, and so you're left with the same old people again and again in reincarnated in different roles. But
Yeah,
it is what it is, and then Pakistan cricket, as always, will continue in its circus-like format.
absolutely.
Like you say, 2 steps forward and 10 steps back.
And that's how it's always going to be, unfortunately. I
But
wish I
anyways, let's move forward. India South Africa was a fantastic series. Well played, India. Great batting. Sanju Samson 0-0, 100-100, or whatever the order of that was. Tilak Verma 100-100. Well done, India. Yes, you are. You've proven that you are worthy T20 champions, taking your semi reserve team and destroying South Africa. Well done. But more
fellow
importantly,
finalist South Africa, yes.
yeah. But more importantly, let's move on to the bigger series upcoming, the Border Gavaskar, the BGT series, India, Australia. I know India had this weird thing of whenever they go to Australia, like they won last time as well, but then they have this, they've got a good squad, playing decently. And then all these players start randomly getting injured, or people drop out, and then people go on paternity leave, and
It all
then
happened at the same
it all
time.
happens. It happened
Yeah.
last time, and they still end up winning it. But this was weird. Like, I don't know if you're following, but they played this like simulation game, which I assume is a practice match. I don't know what's the simulation behind it. Did they like reincarnate, like, I don't know, the Pat Cummins or Josh Hazelwood or something, and they kind of played them. I don't know what was the.
And wasn't it behind closed doors?
Yeah, but there was reports coming out like on X and Twitter or whatever, pretty much every ball. And then all these batters started getting injured. Kohli got hit, KL Rahul got hit, and so I don't know what simulation they were doing.
Yeah, I know. Shubman Gill.
Yeah, yeah, Gill got injured, so I don't know what they're trying to do. But yeah, so I really don't know who's going to play in that first Test match. It's a bit uncertain. From India is going to play. I'm not sure if Rohit Sharma is playing or is not playing. Maybe it's not confirmed. Uh, but
So look,
uh,
I mean,
but yeah,
ultimately, if we just move away from the hype, okay, and you just look at these teams on paper, and also given the current test form, I'd say there's a difference in quality. Okay, I'm going to be objective here. Especially given the team that India are likely to field in that first test match, there is a difference in quality. And at the Optus Stadium in Perth, the bounciest wicket in Australia.
well, the
It,
second bounciest, the bounciest was Waka where they were had their practice match, right?
yeah, the Waka, yeah, but I mean the one that's
Yeah,
in
international, yeah, of course.
international, right? So it's just come to a point now that we have to just say that this India team, and for the first test match, looks depleted, right? I mean, yes, the good thing in Indian cricket is their strength of first class structure. So people who come in make a name straight away. They're used to the pressure, but it is playing in Australia against Australia at Perth. No matter how good you are in adapting, it's going to require a serious level of adaptation here and adaptability. I think it won't be a rollover, but I think Australia are favourites for that, at least that first test match. The problem with India is because of that test series loss, they're under a lot of pressure. I know they keep trying to dismiss this whole final, or they're focusing on the series, but the final's on their mind. It's been on their mind since Virat Kohli won the T20 and Rahul Dravid said, "You've got everything now, you have to get this." If they had thought of that in the epic euphoria after winning a T20 World Cup, I mean, that is something that they are focused on, and that is pressure, right? And compound that with the sudden lack of clarity on roles in the test team, and you end up with a bit of a pickle. Is KL Rahul a number three player? I don't understand the fixation with KL Rahul. I mean, you explain it to me. I have no idea. I mean, here's a guy who just for some reason India feel they have to have him in the team. I don't know. There's a sense of stability or calm when I don't think that his stats warrant his a place when there's so much talent, right? So that's one. And two, I think when I look at the bowling, without Mohammad Shami, I mean, there's Bumrah, of course, but other than that, I think, Mohammad Siraj is hit and miss sometimes. I mean, they're going to miss Mohammad Shami a lot. And the spinners are there, but, you know, um, for me, I think it's the fast bowlers at least that will do the damage in that first test match, right? And I know everyone talks about Adelaide being a really tough test match for India too, but I do think they have the squad that can do well there due to their spin
Yeah.
strength and their good players being good players on flat tracks. But this is the brilliance of playing in Australia, right? You've got five completely different propositions. You've got Perth bouncy wickets. You've got the flattish wickets of Adelaide. You've got the fortress of Gabba, right? It's one of the it's probably the truest wicket. It's got something in it for everyone. And Australia were brilliant there until Punt had his day out. And then you've got MCG again, a great track with lots of true bounce, and then SCG, which is a spin center of Australia. So, you know, if I had to put a scoreline, I want to know what you have to say. I would say I think Australia are going to take this 3-1.
3-1. I mean, so you're putting a draw in there somewhere, I guess.
Yeah, putting it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see a draw, especially in the current format. I think India, unless there's weather issues, and can't really predict for that. I think it will probably be 3 to Australia. I think Australia will start well once India has their full strength team back. I think they'll probably win a couple SCG, maybe Adelaide or well, MCG or Adelaide they'll win, and Sydney I think India will
Cool. Yeah.
Sydney India will win. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, you say obviously India's batting is uncertain. It's the same with Australia. I mean, they're going to be going in with a new opening pair. Uh, so it'll be interesting to see how that happens. They've done away with the experiment of Steve Smith to open the batting.
Yeah.
So, um, but yeah, it'd be good to see how that pans out. I think they've got
But
a
just
new
notice
opener.
the professionalism there. There's no ego here that, oh, we made the wrong decision. No, we tried it,
Yeah,
didn't work. Next, on to the
yeah. I
next one.
mean, yeah, exactly. And Steve Smith is probably one of the best test batters in the world anyway. So he slots straight back in at four. I don't think that's going to be an issue. But yeah, I think India's semi inexperienced batter. I don't know if it's going to be KL Rahul. It'll be one of the new guys. Jaiswal will probably be playing in Australia for the first time. That's another big question. And then if Rohit's not opening, then it'll be a new opener with him. Either Rahul's going to open or Rahul's going to play at three, so they'll have somebody new in at three or opening. It's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. And of course, you'll have Siraj and Bumrah who bowled in Australia, but then they'll have a third fast bowler as well who doesn't have experience of bowling in Australia. So it's just that inexperience. But then Rishabh Pant could have enough. He just needs half a day at the crease, and he can turn a whole test match around.
He's one
So
of
you just
those
never know.
I can't place Rishabh Pant. Every time I think he's overrated, he will turn around and do something brilliant. In fact, I think he is a bit overrated in limited overs. He hasn't quite excelled in the way that they hoped he would, which is ironic because the way he plays, you would have thought he would have had
Yeah.
more success in the limited overs format. But that's not unique to him. Even Virender Sehwag, you put in the same bucket. Someone whose play seemed more suited to ODI cricket or limited overs cricket, but his stats say otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Another example is much less so, but Shahid Afridi, who averaged close to 40 in Test cricket, would you believe 37? You know, so there is this streak of players who somehow, despite being aggressive, save their best for Test cricket. I think it's because they fight fire with fire. When in Test cricket, bowlers are on the are more aggressive, right? They're on the lookout for wickets. They'll bowl more attacking lines and lengths for longer because there's no you need 20 wickets to win the game. No ifs or buts. Field placements are more aggressive for longer. Such players thrive on that because when there's
Yeah.
more aggressive bowling, there's also scope for mistakes and more wavered bowling, and they're the players who pounce on those. And when the field placements are up, yes, that's more pressure, but if you get through, it's going for four. So I don't know. So Rishabh Pant, I think, is a fantastic player, and I've just found him to be an this unique, real anomaly. But can lightning strike twice? Can he? I mean, people call that Rishabh Pant innings probably one of the greatest Test innings of an India batsman, despite the fact that he didn't even score 100. So you know, I think there are some conditions that suit him more. But then every time I've thought that, he's turned around and actually put his hand up when others haven't. And that's what I like about Pant. You know, I remember even against some of the New Zealand games and innings where everyone else was faltering,
Yeah.
Pant still stayed on. Yes, he would then end up doing something silly. And then you'd hear the commentator saying, well, that's the way he plays. And you're like, well, yes, but he also has a brain. But yeah, look,
Yeah.
that it is what it is, right? So still, he's a formidable player.
Yeah. I know Australia have got their own. I mean, maybe to a lesser extent, they've got like Travis Head and I think Mitchell Marsh probably will play at six, I guess. So they've got their own version of that. Batters who on their day can really take the game away from the
Yeah,
opposition.
yeah,
So
for sure.
not quite like for like, but it'll be good to see that balance of Steve Smiths and Virat Kohli's, and then you've got the likes of Pant and Head who are probably going to be a bit more aggressive. But I think, I mean, the other thing for Australia, obviously, in their favor is that bowling lineup. All their bowlers seem to be fit, and it's the usual. No, no experiments there. I think they'll go with their usual four with the experience of bowling in those
I agree.
conditions. So yeah, I think they've got the edge.
Well, there you go. And predictions, we've told you ours. I think the first Test match, I think we're both agreed, will probably go to
Yeah,
Australia. But look, I mean, look, the Border Gavaskar Trophy. I think when it comes to bilateral Test series, after the Ashes, this is the other big one, right? I mean,
yeah,
yeah, and it's always served up absolute classics, even with depleted teams at either ends, and it just brings out the best in them. And I think there is something in India about just revering Australia and knowing that unlike us, we or Pakistan, we get intimidated by them. There's a reverence towards Australia and India that brings out the best in them. They know that this is if you want to make a name for yourself, you do it against Australia, right? I know there's old India Pakistan, but keep that aside. In terms of pure cricketing skill and from a cricketing perspective, Australia doing it against Australia in Australia can be no bigger feat. So I think at the moment it's only India that have actually gone to Australian shores with that mentality, right? Others have always come a bit, 1 foot behind. And it's not just England, all of those. They have all the history and the scars in their minds when they come on Australian shores. And I think it's reciprocated as well, right? Australia for a long time called India that final frontier, right? So there's a lot of respect there in the Test circuit. They are your two best teams, right? Whether they'll make it to the final, I think we can all talk a lot about the WTC Championship and the way it's run. It's suboptimal, probably the best option you have in a busy, hectic schedule with World Cups and T20 World Cups. But still, it doesn't always necessarily mean the best two teams make it to the final. And it may or may not happen now, but at least we have a series that has opened up the World Championship race so wonderfully. The top two teams against each other. One team will win points, the other will drop points. And then you can't hope for anything better in a league, right? We talk about football, we talk about all these other sports that have had major leagues, and this is the ideal setting. So Zahid, I think all we have to say is it's probably going to be a really good series. I just hope it lives up to its hype, and I know it'll not just be those two teams. They'll be looking very closely at the result.
Yeah, I know it'll be good to see how it plays out. I mean, slight detour, but I think a 3-2 defeat, I think, still might be enough for India just because of
Yeah, 100%.
all
Yeah, it will.
the permutations and all of that. It won't be like in their hands, so to speak, but I think it'll just be enough. Maybe they
Yeah.
might need Pakistan to do them a favor in South Africa, but let's see
Well,
how.
I think the chances of that happening are very slim, especially with the coach on his way out. But never mind. Look, as always, lots to talk about in the world cricket in Pakistan, Australia, all the big. We haven't touched on the Champions Trophy. We may save that for another episode once we get a little more clarity on what's happening. I know it's a bit of a political point. We did touch on it in the last episode. I think our view there still stays unchanged. But please keep supporting us, and please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.